Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another week of Nuggets. Thank you, Seth, for guiding us through last week's lesson. I must confess that the study for this week is quite daunting. We have such limited understanding of who God is and how he operates that I'm not sure we can truly explain this week's lesson, free will, love, and divine providence. I'll never forget that phone call. It was 1995, and I happened to pick up the receiver on our home phone when our very close family friends called to tell us that they had lost their 18-year-old son in a car accident. He wasn't the driver. He was the only one wearing a seatbelt and didn't survive the impact of the car against a tree on his side. The other passengers had been expelled from the car because they weren't wearing their seatbelts, and they survived. That family's life was forever transformed by this tragedy. And a child's death is something a parent can never really recover from. You just learn to live with the pain. I heard a lot of well-meaning Adventists try to give all sorts of explanations as to why our 18-year-old friend had died. Things like, God willed him to die because he knew in the future our friend would turn away from God. So in order to ensure his salvation, God took him now. Or other things like, well, that's what happens when you skip school and do the wrong thing. I guess those are our desperate attempts of making sense of God and to try to understand heartache and suffering in this world. And most importantly, try to understand God's sovereignty. If God is in control and he is sovereign, is that the same as getting his way always? And is everything that happens in this world and to us an expression of God's will because he wanted it that way? Well, apparently no. As mind-blowing as this may sound, God frequently experiences unfulfilled desires, especially when it comes to his people and his relationship to them, at least according to the Bible. Take, for example, what Jesus says in Luke 13, verse 34. Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often I wanted to gather you, children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you were not willing. We also have the Old Testament, where there's many examples through the prophets of God expressing a relational desire with his people that goes unfulfilled. And who knows what that entails? The behind-the-scenes workings that we don't know on this side of heaven. I mean, Job's life is a prime example of God's sovereignty, but God getting blamed for all the bad things that happened to Job. If there's one thing I've learned in this life with our limited understanding, is that we should not be quick to come up with explanations of what's happening or of how God is acting or not acting. Let's show a little more humility. And with that, we come to the end of our nugget. I'll see you tomorrow.